Cool. All right, do you mind if I kick off, guys? So my name is Morgan Hancock. I'm going to be just chatting about TextNeck. Just something that's occurring a lot more frequently now thanks to phones and tablets. So the formal description of TextNeck is that huge mass of words there. So forward head posture, persistent prolonged, forward flexed neck position, hyperextension, anterior ligamentous contractures. It's a whole big anatomical mess of words. But you can kind of see that is what's happening. The kids are just heads down the whole time, and unfortunately most of the adults are as well nowadays. But that's a lot easier version of it. So at the end of the day, TextNeck is simply a posture that is formed by having your head tilted forward for really long periods. And of course, the main culprit there is the cell phone and the tablet. Now, the problem with cell phones and tablets is we need to use our fingers for them, and there was no quick, easy way to make a design where your fingers could type a message while your head was up. They have to all be compact, it all has to be the same thing. So unfortunately, as soon as you are typing with your fingers, your head has to go down to look at the object. Now that's what happens from an X-ray point of view between what is a normal healthy neck, and you see you've got just this mild curve, and that curve acts as a shock absorber. That's what it's made for. It's designed so that you can walk along and your head actually gets a little bounce to it, okay? That's what's happening after you've been using a phone or a tablet for sort of 5 to 10 years. You've lost the curve of your neck, and it's now more like a steel shaft. And what happens is all of these spaces here, those are your discs, and they're your shock absorbers between the bones. And they're not designed to have to take a solid steel bar slamming up and down on them all the time. So you could say, why is it happening? Because the reason I've got that image is, sure, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, people sat and read books for several hours at a time. They read newspapers on the train. The difference is it was the attention span. Apart from a very small subset of really dedicated readers, most people will only have their heads down like that to read a few articles, maybe the first 10 or 20 pages of a novel they're reading. But unfortunately, of course, with tablets and phones, we introduced the sort of device that can keep you glued onto the screen for hours at a time, just hours. And there was some research around that. They asked some teenagers, they said to them, how long do you think you use your phone for a day? And they'd put a recording device on the phone to kind of actually record how long these kids were using their phones. And the average response from most of these teenagers was like, 2 to 3 hours, maybe 4 hours tops. But of course, the actual recorded time on the phones was closer to 8 to 9 hours. And if you think about that, 9 hours that you are this the whole time. And that's unfortunately why it's doing the damage. And I can imagine that if you go to any restaurant, ride any bus, sit on any train, stand around in a queue for a coffee, you will see most people with their head on their phone. Because our brains have gotten to the point where we can't go more than a few minutes without some entertainment. So if you are standing in queue for something, you pull out your phone and you check your emails, and you check your Messenger app, and you check WhatsApp, because you want some feedback in your brain. So it's the kind of stuff that's happening, and you see it everywhere. It's not hard to miss it. So this was the old symbol of the days of the computer. We went from standing bipeds and crouched down to the computers. But nowadays, that's the new version. We've taken our computers with us, and so while we might be walking, we are now still hunched over just as badly. So this is geology, which you would think wouldn't really apply too much anatomically, but that's what geology is. It's pressure and time. It's the changes to the landscape over time. And physically, we do exactly the same thing. And that's all it takes for children and teenagers, because they are growing. And if you think about those old science experiments where you would stick a potted plant in a box and you'd punch some holes in the box, and that plant would slowly grow up towards the little spot of sun in the box. Think about a child's neck that spends 6 to 9 hours a day on a device. Think about how their neck is actually growing to match that shape. And that's really the problem. So the spine winds up in a position that we put it in the most. Now, as adults, older adults, we've been engaged with computers for a long time, and we had our whole own slew of problems. Carpal tunnel syndrome, just generally tight necks and shoulders. Unfortunately, the kids, of course, are effectively computer users from about 2 years old. That's the old style of beauty back in the days of Ming Dynasty and that kind of thing. Small feet. So what they would do is they would strap the feet of young women and stop the growth of the foot as much as they could. And so they formed the foot into that shape. And that's all we're doing with devices. That's exactly what we're doing to children with devices. And the reason why that is kind of physics at the end of the day. So when we are looking straight ahead, our head weighs about 5 kilos. And as soon as we start looking down, the weight of our head increases. That's sort of simple physics. As soon as you shift a weight, there's more pressure. So when you have your phone up about there, your head now weighs about 18 kilos. But unfortunately, for most kids, the phone is down by their waist, and now their head's pushing towards 30 kilos. You have a set of muscles in the back of your skull. They're designed to let you do that. But the muscle is designed as a quick fire muscle. So everything about that muscle, how it's made, how the blood flows, how the energy flows through that muscle, is designed for you to look down and look up. Your big leg muscles, your quads, they're slow fire muscles. They are designed to hold you for long periods of time. But we are making the little muscles in our neck work like our legs by having to hold our head for hours at a time. That's just an interesting thing about like the social convention around phones. If you were sitting at dinner with a family member or at a restaurant and you pulled out a book and just started reading while they sat there and stared at you, you would consider that extremely rude. You know, we're trying to have a conversation here and you've just started reading a book. And yet we think nothing of pulling out our phones and doing exactly the same thing. So this was just a 5-year study. They did it over 7,000 adult subjects, or young adults between 20 and 24. And basically, the amount of neck pain and upper back pain they had was pretty much directly related to the amount of time they spent on their phones. This was a neurosurgeon, a Nobel Prize recipient. And he said, if you lose 5 to 7 centimeters of the curve of your neck, you are going to start getting cervical disease, which is pretty much things like your discs start collapsing on themselves, the bones start growing nasty little bony spurs, the nerves start getting crushed in and trapped, and that causes a whole slew of trouble. And that's exactly what we do with that change to the curve of our neck. So those are just some of the things that it causes. Headaches, that's a sort of obvious one. A bit of dizziness, unfortunately the compression you're putting on certain key nerves in your neck specifically relates to your ability for balance. Neck and back pain, fairly straightforward. Decreased respiratory function. So you have a couple of nerves, quite a major nerve that runs around from your neck and sort of runs across a large portion of your chest and through sections of your body that specifically has a major role in your respiration. And if you spend your time collapsing and crushing that nerve, your whole breath starts becoming shorter and shallower. And those shallow breaths start wrecking your diaphragm and start causing muscular tension in other areas. Funnily enough, we need oxygen to survive. But short, shallow breaths doesn't cut it. It's just going to make it worse and worse. And because of those things, then we get even more fun stuff that attaches to it. You'll get the early onset arthritis. Your discs start collapsing, disc compression, and nerve damage. And this is all just from using devices. So that's what a neck looks like when it's lost the curve, but at that stage, nothing's really gone wrong. So in phase 1 and 2 of deterioration of your neck, it's all pretty much reversible. As long as you find out about it early enough, it's pretty straightforward kind of techniques and treatments and a bit of homework pretty much to get the curve back in your neck. So there's nothing really major going on here other than it's all straight. By the time you're hitting here, you're beginning to get a bit of lipping on the bones, some little spiky bits beginning to appear, and these discs are beginning to get smaller. But again, nothing too major at that stage. What you will probably find is if you are phase 1 or phase 2, you're the sort of person that very quickly and very easily gets a tight neck and tight shoulders. It doesn't take much. You can wake up one morning and maybe you've just slept on your pillow a little funny and your neck is jammed. That's the kind of like pre-warning phase. If it's happening with some regularity, everybody wakes up from time to time with a tight neck, that's fine. But if this is something happening to you half a dozen times across the year, or you never can get your neck to relax, then you do need to start thinking maybe something's going on with the actual alignment of my neck. If you really let it go to pot, that's the kind of stuff you'll see. And at that point, you've now actually got bones kind of fusing together. The discs have completely gone. You'll have lost a lot of movement of your neck at that stage. You probably can't turn your neck more than 30 or 40 degrees either side. You may not be able to drop your head down. You probably cannot put your head above about 10 or 15 degrees. And what you'll do is, the human body is really good at letting you do the movements you want by cheating. And we see this a lot as osteopaths. When we look at you and we're sort of trying to figure out what's going wrong, we might say to you, okay, can you turn your head to the left? And you might just go, great. But more likely, if you've got some neck problems, you'll go, oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, see, I'm good. Your body will pull everything else it can. So when you go to look up, just check for yourself whether or not you can actually drop your head back, or whether or not you're actually finding your shoulders are dropping back and your eyes are trying to go as high as they can to get up. You know then that your body's cheating all sorts of ways. So, solutions. May as well give you some solutions. Not much point just telling you all doom and gloom. It's mainly as prevention. That fella there, that can be as simple as it is. It's just lifting your phone up. Now, with kids, it's hard to get them to remember to do that. So you can do something like that with simple things. Well, this is just an example. Yeah, we'd rather not catch you at the bottom of the cliff. We'd rather stop you before you get to the bottom of the cliff. It's a lot easier to treat minor symptoms than it is to treat major symptoms, and it'll save you a lot more money. But that's the kind of thing that helps. That's all it is. It's just repositioning the device. You can pull a cushion off your couch and just stick that cushion on your knees and have your arms on that cushion. And that alone will shift your neck from that 60 degree back up to that 30 degrees. And it's a huge difference if you count the hours that you will be staring at your screen. You could go this far. This is I don't know what this is really. The whole idea of this is a forward head posture. So this device is trying to get rid of that. And he's got little cranky bits here to slowly kind of pull your neck back. So it's like braces for your neck. I would hope you'd never get to that point. I think it's great somebody's taken the time to create that, but you really don't want to have to wear that unless you've got a broken neck. It's a lot. It's as simple as that kind of stuff. If you actually had an X-ray of your neck and somebody said yes, you've actually got tech neck, you could use a water bottle with a towel over it and just lie on the water bottle right in the back of your neck, and you just lay on the ground for 5 to 10 minutes a day, and you do that 4 or 5 times a week. The research says that after about 6 months, you'll get the curve of your neck back. That's assuming you're at that kind of phase 1, phase 2 of the neck degeneration. That's a little foam device. That's if you want to be a bit more lazy. So it does the same thing as the water bottle, but it's a little softer and a little cushier. So that's it really. The main thing is obviously time that the kids are on the devices, and realistically it's almost impossible to reduce that time significantly, because let's face it, when you're trying to cook dinner, it's really easy to put the 5-year-old on a device while you're doing that dinner. And if you go back 20 years, we popped the kids down in front of the TV, but the difference was, at least when they were watching the TV, they were sitting up and looking at the TV. Unfortunately, the device is always down. So if you can just get that device up a bit, it'll make all the difference in the world to the kids. And also just be aware that the teenagers' perception of how long they're on those devices is completely out of whack of how long they are actually on those devices. That's it. Thank you very much. All done. Any questions? It's probably not. It was pretty. But have you got any worries or concerns? You guys were rolling your necks the whole time. And it's still quite tight? Okay. Yeah, but it's always tight? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Did you do it like, It's a long time for it to be hanging around. That's usually when you come and see somebody like us. So we're around, we're just up the road. So not to sell you or anything, it's just a case of come and see an osteopath. That's what we treat. You come in with a sore, tight muscle and we'll sort it out in 2 or 3 sessions, that'll be done. The big thing with injuries like that, or not even an injury, just a random tight thing, it's like walking backwards off a cliff. The muscle's been there the whole time getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's not until you step off the cliff and you actually start getting pain, now you're aware of it and you have to fix it. But prior to that, your body's been coping with it for months and just hiding it from you. And that kind of goes back to a bit of the sort of monkey brain of you need to be able to run away from the lion. So as long as you can run away from the lion, I'll hide all these injuries and sore things from you. But you can only do that for so long. So when you finally come in and you're in pain, we're trying to get you back down below that pain threshold and hopefully buy you a little more breathing space. We all walk around with tension. Every day you wake up, you have some form of muscle tension. It's just whether or not you manage to gather up enough tension to finally cause some pain. But there's no point walking around with that. Yeah, just come in and see us. We'll sort it out. Yeah.
What do you have to do with bottles and...
Oh, yeah, the water bottle one?
Because
Yeah.
I think I missed it a little bit.
Can I borrow that for a second?
I was on the phone.
So that's just a good shape. That's a nice kind of curve. Pump bottle's about the same thing. The only reason we put a little towel over it just for comfort. And all you're going to do is you lay on the ground, not your bed, because you need a firm surface under that. And you simply lay with that directly behind your neck. And you lay on it. And the weight of your head drops it across that. So you want that as far down your neck as possible. You want that kind of quite close to your shoulders so that your head has space to fall over it. And that's it. You lay there for 5 to 10 minutes. What you may find is if your neck is quite stiff, and maybe you do actually have like stage 1 where you've lost the curve, you might find after about 2 minutes it's really uncomfortable. In which case, that's cool, you stop. And it's like doing a gym workout. You slowly add a minute or so every other day until you slowly build that up. Yeah. No worries.
And also with sleeping position, like with this theory of lying usually, is it better sleep without pillow?
No. Sleep with a pillow. Yeah. If you're ever curious about that,
Articles, some say, oh, you don't need a pillow.
it's pretty rare that somebody doesn't need a pillow. The problem is when you're sleeping, you're never just in one position. You might start in a particular favored position. Maybe you're a back sleeper and you start that way, but some stage throughout the night, you're going to roll onto your side in some form. And if you don't have anything behind your neck, and if you look at the width of my shoulders, can you imagine me laying on my shoulder like that? My head goes to try and touch the ground. And so this is being crushed for an hour or two until I finally roll over and change position. So you're better off that the best pillows are those ones with that nice kind of curve through them. And the reason those pillows have a low curve and a high curve is the low curve is for your back and stomach sleepers, and the high curve is for your side sleepers. And that just fills in your neck and lets your neck rest. And honestly, if you change to one of those pillows, you will never travel anywhere without shoving that pillow in your luggage. Because after that, you try a hotel pillow, you just be like, no. Yeah. So it's important. That one of the good tricks is if you lay on your bed on your pillow, get your partner or a friend to look at you. And they want to see you like this, but sideways. And if they're looking at you and you're on your pillow and your head is like that, and the problem is our brain says, oh, well, this is wonderful and comfy. Oh, lovely. But you need somebody else to actually look and go, no.